less than 5 months ago, 4 months ago, Pam Bondi came on TV and said, yes, the Epstein files are on my desk. And there's hundreds of victims and videos, thousands of videos. And you're like, okay, all right, sweetheart, then what are you going to do? Now there's no videos. There's no anything. And this is maybe proves or at least highlights the bigger picture. The bigger picture is I believe the elites are just telling us to our face. We know what we did. You know what we did. But I want you to understand that we have all the power. This is going to go away, and you're going to stop talking about it, and it's going to be meaningless. And it will. It'll disappear. And no one will ever ask about the Epstein files ever again. It'll just disappear.
JJ Carrell back again, black t-shirt, no suit, still disappointing me, still hurting my feelings, still dressing down.
I know. I'm sorry. I got a hit on a cable show later, and I have my suit over there, but that's for other people.
You son of a bitch. It's already pressed and hanging, isn't it? Oh, you motherfucker.
You know what? One day I'll come on with a suit and tie and make you feel great.
All right. Well, I look forward to that day. How you doing, brother? How you been, man?
I'm doing well. It's a fast pace here in America with Trump. Things that would normally dominate news cycles for days, weeks on end, it hangs around for 6 hours and then it's gone. Like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, Miranda Devine comes out a New York Post article, and with the CIA director Radcliffe comes out and says, yes, we have definitive proof that Obama orchestrated with Brennan, Clapper, and James Comey the Russia collusion. It's treason. And then it just disappears. Why? Because now we see the collusion with the DOJ with the Epstein files. I mean, and it's like this every single day in America. It's like we used to have a 24-hour news cycle, right? And that's too fast. But now it's like a 4 to 6 hour window, and it just washed away. And here comes something else. Because what Trump is doing is Herculean in what he's doing, but I don't even think it's enough. As hard as that is to say, I don't think it's enough. I don't think he's doing enough on immigration. I don't think he's doing enough on X, Y, and Z. And I don't really blame him because the problems are so enormous in America, in the world.
Well, you see here, I was talking about this actually in the last episode, but I'll reiterate here. I actually think that it's a tactic that whoever, whatever is pulling the levers of power, whatever you think it may be. I think it's everything everybody thinks it is, but I think it's a tactic. I think the tactic is to overwhelm and to just create an onslaught of constant information so that nobody can ever grab anything long enough to really analyze it and pick it apart. And, I made this observation in the last episode, like, the current sitting president of the United States had 2 attempts on his life. And it feels like that was years ago, but that was September.
And nobody even talks about it.
Nobody even talks about it. We've completely forgotten about it. This kid, what's his name? William Thomas Crooks, and the other guy, Ryan Ruth, they've been forgotten.
Yeah. And I'm supposed to believe that a skinny-armed little kid climbed up on top of a roof of a building where the police were underneath him. This is the only 20-year-old in modern history that has no social media. He has foreign bank accounts and 2 cell phones, and they go to his house and it's cleaned, like it's like a staged house, and then the Secret Service doesn't have the necessary amount of people. The sniper stares at the guy as he fires off 5 rounds, and CNN never covers any of Trump's rallies except that one. No other one. The hundreds of rallies he's had, they've only covered one live. It was that one. And I'm supposed to believe that this is all happenstance? No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Let me ask you this question. because this is the one that's been rolling around in my head for a while. If this was a deep state intelligence agency set up to assassinate Trump, why would they entrust it to a kid who had maybe been to the range a handful of times shooting with iron sights? Like, why wouldn't they have at least put a scope on his rifle?
I don't know. I don't know. And then follow that up with, why did they clean the crime scene that fast?
Yeah.
And then they torch his body, cremate his body. That there's a water tower that sees everything. And if I was in law enforcement, I would put someone in the water tower that you can see everything from miles. You don't even have, you have the three blind mice in the Secret Service. You have females that can only cover up to the Trump's navel. I mean, there's no way that all of that happened out of nothing. And maybe was he the only shooter? We don't know. Now we've heard multiple people say, yeah, I heard multiple gunshots that came from different places. Well, was there a second shooter? But if I told you, prior to him being assassinated, if I told you, gave you all of this data, right, and said, this is what's going to happen, and then they're going to clean it up like that and no one's going to hear a thing about it, you would go, well, then that there's a conspiracy there. There's a collusion happened. I just think it's common sense. I don't think it needs to be, go down the rabbit hole. But nobody cares anymore. Well, they don't even talk about it.
That's it. Like, it's disappeared. Like that. Like, if this was 20 years ago, this would still be headline news, right? Like,
this would be wall-to-wall news forever.
Yeah, right. And it's gone. And I mean, even like more recent. Well, I mean, it feels like a million things have happened between now and then. I mean, even the U.S. bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities, which is, again, 20 years ago, headline front page news, day in, day out.
No, it's almost as if it didn't happen.
It's disappeared. It's gone.
It's gone.
And of course, all of the floating heads lost their fucking minds because Tucker Carlson interviewed the president of Iran, which is standard journalism. It's something that every journalist worth their weight in the past would either be desperate to get that interview or did that interview, right? Like, we only knew who Saddam Hussein really was and his intentions and what type of person he was because of interviews that he did with CNN and other networks. Like, we're also in this weird state where we are trying to isolate ourselves and each other from actual information because we don't want to disturb the popular narratives that are ruling our reality, right?
I agree with that. I call this an awakening. And sometimes I wonder, like, I just had this conversation with my wife. Is it that I'm just coming to this information? Am I behind the curve of life? And now things are starting to pop up in my purview and make me question everything. And I will tell your audience that I question everything. I trust no one about anything in my life. Nothing. Outside of that, I know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, died and rose from the dead. I don't believe in anything. Zero. And I don't think, and I am not a paranoid guy. I'm not an anxious guy. I'm not a conspiracy. But everything that I see now, I'm seeing more clearly, and nothing makes sense except we have been propagandized. My whole life, 50 plus years, propagandized to believe certain things this is what they are. Why does LGBTQ transgender ideology, why do they need to get into our schools? Why is it so important to get inside of our schools and be with children? Because when you begin that lie, then it carries over to, it becomes reality. You don't even question it. I'll give you an example, and people your audience may think, oh, he's crazy. Is there any factual evidence that we went to the moon? Is there any factual evidence? Contrast that or compare that to present day knowledge that nothing can get through the Van Allen belt without evaporating. It's so hot, it'll just radiation will it'll literally just disappear. But we had better technology in 1969 than we have today. Let's not say, let's take this piece by piece. Like my son is watching an old video. I had him watch an old video of the moon landing, and he made me pause it. And he said, hold on, Dad. He's 12. He was 12 years old. Hold on, Dad. President Nixon is on a phone that you told me that the wires go into the wall and then they run outside up the telephone pole, and he's speaking directly to the guys on the moon? Yeah, son. And he's like, that's absurd. I go, I know it's absurd, Joseph. That's the point. And I said, if that was a lie, what else was a lie? Right? Nobody even asked, how did you transmit footage from the moon back to Earth live? What? No delay. Who was the SOB that got left on the moon filming them shoot up and fall away? They used, by their own words, they used the computing processor that was equivalent to one of our calculators today. Nothing adds up.
Well, just to interject here, I wrote about this recently, and I think what's happening is that, you call it the Great Awakening. I don't know what I would call it, but I think what's happened is with the internet, we now have a means of instant communication around the world. And because of that, information travels fast. And what we are coming to realize is that most of the world as we knew it was a lie.
Everything.
But I recently, in the essay that I wrote, I questioned whether this is a good idea and whether the world as we knew it prior to 2001 was a better world to live in. Because although we were living a lie, we at least had one central narrative that we all believed to be true, and therefore constructed a common reality, an objective universe that we all lived in. I don't know what this is now, because it seems like we all live on our own isolated island where truth and reality is purely subjective and determined by whatever information we have access to.
I think that's a great point. And I think, and my broader point on bringing up the moon isn't if you believe me or I'm correct or I'm off. My point is that look at what it's done. Just from that, it makes you question everything, right? It makes you logically go, okay, they didn't talk to each other on the phone and they lied to us about that. Okay, they lied to us about that. And then they said a bunch of illiterate peasant slaves that were malnutrition built the pyramids. And I grew up with no pyramids in the world except in Egypt. None. They're the biggest. No, they're not. They're all over the globe. It's not the biggest. Oh my God, now there's 8 cylinders going down. So illiterate slaves dug 2,000 meters down into the sand and built pylons on top of facilities that are 3 times the size of a football field made out of concrete. How did that happen? Right? So now it makes me think everything is a fraud and a lie. And then to your point, then a question has to be asked, how does civilization or a society maintain itself and then thrive in a culture where no one trusts anyone or anything? And the answer is it doesn't. And that's what's happened in America. I believe we're seeing the balkanization of our population through race, ethnicity, speech, language, societal, cultural norms, and it's done on purpose. America is more vulnerable than it has ever been in her history. And the people in America are starting to wake up to go, hold on a second. What happened to my demographics? Literally, what happened to my and why is it okay for Mexico, Ecuador, Japan, Russia, China, Iran? how can they hold on to their demographics? The only people that have to suffer, meaning have to have their demographics destroyed, is white Western cultures. Has anybody ever asked that question? Nobody's going to Nigeria and going, hey, I'm going to fuse your country with 10 million Mexicans. Whoa, hold on a second. No, you're not. Okay, well, Ecuador, I'm going to send 1 million Nigerians. How come it's just America, Western Europe, and Canada that our majority white populations have to endure the influx of diversity?
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. I think that it's because we have been culturally the strongest for centuries. At least 100 years, if not 200. And I think it has to do with disassembling us culturally.
Yes.
And that doesn't have really much to do with race. It has to do with more the pre-existing culture that lives there. And in order for globalism to really work, Western culture has to die. Because as long as we're better, and I mean better in terms of economy, living standards, general all around life, well, we are never going to accept an equalizing force that puts us on the same footing as, say, like Nigeria or Somalia or India.
Right.
So what they have to do is they have to degrade and destroy us culturally in order for us to accept globalism, which will ultimately lead to a global tyranny. And that's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, you can see the writing on the wall. You know where this is heading.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's about. It's about destroying us culturally. So when you, like, say, for example, in Canada, we have, I'm in the Calgary area in Alberta, which is, historically they called it Cowtown. It's kind of like Nashville North is what I would compare it to, or like a small Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And we have, I don't know how many, but tens of thousands of Indian immigrants who have been funneled into our city and into our communities, right? And there's a cultural asymmetry there.
Mm-hmm.
Our cultures don't really overlap in a lot of ways. We are very different. And it has nothing to do with race. Like, I don't give a fuck what color your skin is. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what country you're from. What it has to do with is the fact that, like, say, for example, in Indian culture, women are not, and this is, again, I'm generalizing. So Indians out there watching this, I'm aware that I'm generalizing, but in sections of Indian culture, women are basically second-class citizens. And you have now a situation here in Calgary where there are women being harassed by Indian immigrants or feeling uncomfortable. And this is not just white women. This is women of all colors feeling uncomfortable in certain parts of the city. And so what this is about is it's not like a situation where you're like introducing Indians to like specifically destroy the country. What you're doing is you're introducing a foreign culture, almost like an antibody to your existing culture, and they're going to clash. That's going to happen, and now you're seeing that. But because of our neoliberal cultural revolution that we just experienced with DEI and all that stuff, it's not something that can be openly discussed. And the moment that you do discuss it, it's equated to racism.
Yep.
And so that's their protection against this very obvious disturbing and destructive force entering our country. That's their defense against anybody challenging it. And so, I know that you guys are experiencing very similar things in the United States. And I personally believe that it has to do with, and you look at all Western nations, we're all experiencing the same thing at the same time. And it just has to do with degrading and destroying Western culture. And to be clear, before I move forward, for people listening, I don't mean white culture. I mean Western culture. There are all sorts of races who are part of Western culture. There are people who happen to be Mexican, who were born in this country or immigrated as children, who assimilated into the culture, right? And Mexico is part of the West. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But you get what I'm saying. It's not about white or brown or black or Asian or whatever. It's cultural. And I think that's the part that we're missing.
Well, okay, let's look at it from, and I don't consider Mexico or Latin America part of the West. I consider them the Southern Hemisphere, third world nations, backwards, narco-terrorism, corrupt communist, quasi-socialist governments. But let's look at what's happening in Mexico. You just had a massive riots this weekend in Mexico City because they're rioting that too many white people from America are in Mexico City, driving the cost of rent up. So you have a lot of Americans that immigrated to Mexico on visas or overstayed their visas, and because they're still getting the wages from America, like they're living in Mexico City doing their business, but they're still getting American wages. So rents are skyrocketing, everything's skyrocketing. They're mad that they have to speak English when they want them to speak Spanish. Everything that I have said throughout my life as a Border Patrol agent and as someone that wanted to retain our American culture and language, they're saying the same thing. So what you're seeing is, I think, across the globe, especially in the Western nations and some Southern Hemisphere nations, is this fight to retain their nationalist identity.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with, okay, let's take a look at America. What is it, in the 80s? 80s, we were 85, 87% white, okay? About 11% black and 2% just kind of whatever, right? Now, white race is below 65%. Black race only got up about 2%, which is 13%. And more than blacks, Hispanics have been artificially increased through illegal immigration to the point that blacks are no longer the number one minority in America. So now we are seeing a complete demographic upheaval. In the last 4 years, 30 million people came into America illegally, 185 nationalities. Dude, the whole world came to America. And we are starting to see in America the balkanization. We're seeing balkanization of Hispanic Mexicans. We're seeing the balkanization of Venezuelans, Haitians. We're also seeing the balkanization or the Islamic people from all over different nations now are building gigantic communities and cities across America. America is balkanized. I'm seeing a change from the DEI, and it's like the left shot their wad and it didn't stick. And now we're starting to clean up America. But I don't know if we're going to clean it up fast enough. I don't. And I say that because I don't believe America has the intestinal fortitude anymore. Enough of us have it to say it. I do. I say it clearly. I don't hide my feelings ever. I'm never going to apologize for what I want my country to be. And there's nothing racist or xenophobic to say, you know what? I liked it when my country had the demographics that it used to have until you, the leaders of America, destroyed our demographics artificially because that's what you thought you needed to do. People, Americans like me, don't care that if you're black, brown, Asian, we don't care. So let's say that the Hispanics had a birth rate higher than blacks and higher than whites, and that changed the demographics. Nobody cares. I don't care. They're Americans. No one cares. But when you bring in 50 million illegals that reproduce at a 5 times the rate of the national average, and then you destroy my demographics, I got a problem with that. I didn't vote for that. If America voted for that and said, I want to bring in 50 million more legal immigrants, I mean, I would fight that tooth and nail. But once it passes, I have to live with the law that's passed. We're just living in, I believe, in America, we live in a lawless society. There is no more law and order in America. That's a lie. That's a fallacy. America is a dangerous place filled with evil and dangerous people, and we have no apparatus in place to correct it. For example, 350 million people live in America. Do you know that there's less than 660,000 police officers? Okay. So if I go down America's map and I strip away all the major cities on the eastern and western seaboard, strip them away, I just stripped away almost half of that 660,000. Okay. So now we're down to say 330,000 for the other 44 states in America. Mm-hmm. Now I take out all the obese, all the DEI hires, all of the incompetent law enforcement, I would say, and I'm going to be very, very kind, 50%. So you have 50, so you now have about 175,000-ish police officers, state, local, and federal for 44 states. Now you take days off, court, sick leave, annual leave, everything that happens, training. You have thousands of officers on duty every day for 350 million people. Mm-hmm. Why do you think crime and criminality has skyrocketed in America? Murders, rapes, all that. Because there's nobody to do the job. No one wants to do the job. This is part of the broader picture. The bigger picture is the demonization of police, the demonization of law and order. Why? Because you need chaos in order to change a nation. We are living in what our CIA does to other nations. We're living it in America. And one of the ways the CIA destroys countries and causes this societal upheaval is sexual perversion, LGBTQ. What reigns in America right now? Transgender, gender ideology, sexual perversion. All this is not, everything that's happening in America is not happening independently of each other. It's all together. It's all connected. You don't have to look any further than what happened yesterday or today. Jeffrey Epstein. We heard ad nauseum from our representatives in the DOJ, FBI, et cetera. Yeah, there's thousands of videos of Jeffrey Epstein and his accomplices raping children. Thousands, over 20,000 DVDs. Now we're here. Well, no, there's nothing. There's no list. There's no videos. What? That means somebody got to Pam Bondi, somebody got to Dan Bongino, and somebody got to Kash Patel. And not that the threat of that, what has happened is not what should scare America. It should scare America that there's power structure above our elected officials that are so powerful that they make people like Dan Bongino bend the knee. Dan Bongino, he was in our sphere, right? He was in the podcasting. He was at the top, the apex of our world. He spoke just like you and I do. Now he's telling me Epstein killed himself? He's the same guy that said, where's the tapes? There's no tapes. They didn't have tapes. The cameras didn't work. And now he comes out and go, yeah, well, I saw the tapes. Wait a minute, man. Either you don't have tapes or you do. You can't have either or. He had thousands. The FBI seized 20,000 plus DVDs out of his homes, and now they have nothing. It's all a lie, dude. We are, I say this with complete certainty, that we live in a lawless America and evil roams. It roams. It patrols on earth here in America. And we have no lady justice. There's no justice. We're never going to see anybody on Epstein Island. No one's going to jail. Why? Because the whole upper echelon of media, entertainment, politics, religion, they're all involved in this pedophilia. That's why we're going to see it. We're not going to see anything. Nothing.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something you said earlier, because you actually gave a really good example, and I want to highlight it for people listening. When you were talking about the riots in Mexico City, and rent being driven up because people from the northern countries are moving down there. I know a lot of people who have moved to Mexico, bailed on Canada and the United States and moved to Mexico. And so for listeners, like, this is a good example, because this is that immigration effect that we're seeing in Canada and the United States in reverse. Now we have been priced out of our own countries. The cost of living is so insanely high that we're pulling the plug and moving to Mexico, and that's causing additional problems in Mexico. So you see how it all works, right? Like there's an equalizing force to all this. And the thing is that although we are very similar, Mexico, Canada, and the United States, there is a bit of cultural asymmetry there when you're talking about metropolitan Americans moving into Mexico City. And that asymmetry is starting to show itself in riots in Mexico City, in the increased cost of living. But I would imagine too that there's some cultural conflicts at work there too, that Mexicans are getting very upset by. Now let's return to the Epstein thing, because this is a big deal. See, I was perhaps maybe a little naive in believing that it was possible for Donald Trump and his administration to root out the neoconservative deep state.
Okay.
I was definitely naive. And this Epstein thing, I think, is it's a red herring, right? It's showing us all that Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, Robert F. Kennedy, blah, 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 Tulsi Gabbard, they don't have any real power. That they are but mere figureheads, a smokescreen for what really turns the wheels of the American government. And I think this Epstein situation has been extremely revealing in allowing us to see that. Because Dan Bongino was on his show for years screaming about the Epstein files. Kash Patel did a vast number of interviews where that's top of his list. You know, he's saying like they need to release the Epstein files. We need to know who's on those lists. We need to know who's in those videos. And now there is look, I wouldn't necessarily say cover up, because it is a cover up, but it's not like to an extent where a bunch of stuff got out and now they're trying to wipe it clean. It's that we know Epstein didn't kill himself, despite what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino tell us. We know that those videos exist. We know, those of us who have read further into it know that Jeffrey Epstein was working for Israeli intelligence and the CIA. We know that he was running a honeypot operation. We know that there were children involved. What's with the young lady's name? Virginia Giuffre.
Yep.
Guffrey. I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember how to.
She got hit by a bus.
She went public, suicided herself, or it got hit by a bus or whatever.
Yep.
Like there's all of the usual boxes have been checked around a cover up, right? And now here we are. First of all, her death did not pass through media channels nearly enough. I think that there's maybe a small sliver of people who are actually paying attention who know that she died. And so this all, if you lay it over all of the previous conspiracies that we now know turned out to be true. This matches perfectly. Yet now the expectation is that we turn away because Kash Patel is the FBI director, Dan Bongino is his deputy director, Trump is president, Tulsi Gabbard is DNI. Just look away, don't pay attention. That's
what they want. My God, man, think of this. Think of, like you said, he's been in office 6-7 months. So less than 4 months ago, Pam Bondi came on TV and said, yes, the Epstein files are on my desk. And there's hundreds of victims and videos, thousands of videos. And you're like, okay, all right, sweetheart, then what are you going to do? Now there's no videos. There's no anything. And this is maybe proves, or at least highlights, the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, I believe the elites are just telling us to our face, we know what we did. You know what we did. But I want you to understand that we have all the power. This is going to go away, and you're going to stop talking about it, and it's going to be meaningless. And it will. It'll disappear. And no one will ever ask about the Epstein files ever again. It'll just disappear. Is that not unbelievable? That Okay, I would like to think, and I've thought about this quite a bit, to be honest with you. If I was called up to the Trump administration and put into a position that had some similar, maybe not as high, but similar to Dan Bongino, what is it going to take for me to bend a knee? What are they going to do to me to make me have to do a 180 like Dan Bongino? Look, Dan Bongino's done. Unless he pulls a miracle out of the bag, he's done. He can't come back to Rumble. He ain't going to have 2 million followers listening to him. I'm never going to watch him again because in my mind, he's a fraud. You didn't do anything. And I actually, my belief hinged on, I never put everything on a man, right? But I like Dan Bongino. I thought if anyone's going to get anything done, just out of the fact that his career will be over if he does not do it, is Dan Bongino. I mean, you got Kash Patel saying the FBI needs to be torn down and the FBI building turned into a museum and scattered the FBI. What is he doing now? He actually posted that he's working hard because he's going to close down the Hoover building and move the FBI headquarters across the town. What? What do you mean you're moving it across DC? Who gives a crap, dude? Where are all the arrests? And I'm going to tell you, MAGA is going to split in half.
I think they already have.
Well, there's part of me, like I'm the biggest Trump supporter, but the deep state is so deep that now his agricultural secretary is convincing Trump that he needs to give some kind of quasi-amnesty to farm workers and service workers. What are you talking about, Donald Trump? There's going to be a riff, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to think I'm crazy on this. I think Elon Musk and his America First party is going to step right in, and it is going to catch on wildfire unless he brings in people like Mark Cuban, etc. Because Mark Cuban's already saying, I want to be a part of it. He should be excluded. But America, I believe there has to be a third party. I just do. A hardcore American First party. Will it cause massive disruption? Yes. Will it cause us to have pain and suffering? Yes. But are you telling me that I have to keep voting for Republicans? Why? They hate me. They don't represent me at all. Name me one Republican outside of Donald Trump who I don't count as a Republican. I count him as a cult American patriot type of anomaly. He's a George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. He's not a part of the. I voted for him in spite of the R next to his name. Who are you going to bring up to me and hold up as the shining example of the Republican Party? Is there the Jim Jordan? Is it who else are you going to show me? You're going to show me Mitch McConnell? You're going to show me John Thune, who looks like a wooden piece of petrified wood? Or are you going to who are you going to give me? Really? Who are you going to? When I lived in South Dakota, I went and listened to John Thune speak. And he spoke for 7 minutes straight in a very intimate setting, packed with all of his supporters. I listened to a man that was so brilliant in the way that he spoke for 7 minutes and didn't say a damn thing. Like when he was done, I was like, I have no idea what he just said. Like he was masterful. None. And I thought to myself, that man says nothing in a room full of supporters, like hardcore supporters. He could say anything. So why wouldn't you be aggressive in your speech? Why wouldn't you be like, this is what I want to do? No, he's part of the problem. He sat there and allowed a parliamentarian move in the Senate to allow 1.4 million illegal aliens to stay on federal funded Medicare. So that's my point. He doesn't represent me. None of those men and women represent me.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this now that we're here, because you are the former deputy agent in charge, U.S. Southern Border. You were stationed in San Diego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you built your career 20 plus years chasing people through the desert and through the woods, under constant threat of being stabbed, shot, beaten to death if you run into enough people who don't like you. What are your thoughts on this mass deportation sweep through the United States? Because, and I'll say this before you begin, because I'm torn. I feel like going to Home Depot and arresting, middle-aged guys who are cutting 2x4s is kind of, it's just antithetical to the purpose of it all. Like
why would you say that's antithetical?
Well, because in my opinion, now I'm not saying that person deserves to stay in the country. That's a very complicated discussion. And the compassionate side of myself says, if he's already been in the United States for 30 years and, he's managed to exist there without a criminal record, obviously is working a regular job, is he as much of a danger, say, as a gang member
how do you know
Los Angeles?
Wait a minute. How do you know he's been working a regular job?
Well, this is a hypothetical here, right? Because I don't know.
Well, that's
that
the
guy
problem,
myself.
right? But that's the problem. So let's say it's not that one man at Home Depot. Let's say it's 50 million. 50 million. Now, through my experience, when I go and I arrest that middle-aged man that you just described, I will go through his wallet and I will find every welfare card you can imagine. So he's been here 30 years. He has been on welfare for 30 years. He has been in Section 8 housing for 30 years. He has taken WIC, SNAP, everything. He's had multiple children, so they've gone through education. They have robbed us healthcare-wise. He's not purchasing healthcare. He's going to the emergency room. I'll give you an example. Last year alone, I want your audience to understand, California spent $9.7 billion to give illegal aliens healthcare. They're in the red, $60 billion, and they spent $10 billion. They didn't have money in LA to put water in the fire hydrants. They took and slashed the fire department budget, removing firemen. There have communities that will never return because they had no water and no fire. That's a direct connection to illegal aliens. And I understand a layman's perspective of, I'm empathetic. Those days are gone, man. I'm telling you, you and I just talked about culture and society. I'm looking at a culture. I don't care what you think. I don't care what anyone says to me because I lived it. I effing know what the truth is. Age of consent in Mexico, South America, is whatever the hell you want it to be, my friend. Why do you think pedophilia is raging in America? Why do you think that there is all kinds of societal decay? Why do you think our schools are failing so much? Why do you think when I'm in Kansas and my barber, she's crying last September, she's crying, almost crying when she's cutting my hair, and I go, what is wrong? She goes, I just brought my daughter to first grade and she's the only English speaker. And she goes, the parents are walking up and down the hallway and you could smell the booze and they're high. She goes, I had to rip my child out of that. I went, well, welcome to the real world. This is what I've been telling you. The systemic problems when you have illegal immigration, you think it just manifests in a bubble. It spreads everywhere. Now you give me that same guy. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to bet my month's salary, but I'm going to give you 10-1 odds. 10-1. Man, it's when I look at his criminal record, I'm going to see these things. It's mandatory. It's almost as if they cross the border, they give it to them. You're going to have drunken driving without a license, drive without insurance, spousal abuse, and some kind of misdemeanor theft. You're going to have every one of those on their criminal history. Every single one of them. And that's only what they've been caught. So you look at this, I want to feel good about this guy at Home Depot, and people, well, what is he doing? And I go, what? How about let's not go with what has he done or could do to hurt America. Let me tell you what he hasn't done. That's because he's done so much to hurt America. I could rather just go to what he's not doing. This man is symbolic to 50 million. 50 million. And I have to, as an American, let me give you an example. I'm retired, so I have all my benefits for healthcare. I have, quote, called a Cadillac plan, like the best plan. I'm paying $1,000 a month on premiums. I have a catastrophic that doesn't exist anymore. Meaning I used to have catastrophic, so I have to pay whatever they say, $1,000 a month. But illegal aliens get free healthcare, free. So when you're talking to a guy about empathy and sympathy, that literally died within 6 to 9 months in my career. Died because I went in there as a Christian with my eyes kind of like, okay, they're good people. I'm going to do my job. And there's all kinds of gang members. I'll deal with them. No. At the very best, when someone crosses that border, they're going to get a job under the table, have multiple children, create multiple misdemeanors, and that's the best case scenario.
So let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. How is it possible that these people can live in the United States for 30 plus years and never become a naturalized citizen? And some can have misdemeanors and felonies on their criminal record and still be allowed to reside within the United States. How does that happen?
Because you have sanctuary states and cities like California. And then you ask, well, why didn't they, there was an amnesty in 86. Why didn't they put in for that amnesty? Why didn't they try to get an attorney and go through the process and still be shielded under the sanctuary? Well, because they won't get all the benefits. When you're a U.S. citizen or naturalized, you're not going to get free in-state tuition. What? No. But if I'm illegal alien, I can go anywhere in America and get free in-state tuition. Do you know that if I am a serviceman and I just came, I was saying I was stationed in Albuquerque and I get stationed in San Diego. Do you know that I have to reside in San Diego for a certain amount of time before I can get in-state tuition if I go to college? Do you know that? But if illegal alien comes from Albuquerque and drops their sorry ass in San Diego, they get in-state tuition. They get free health care. They get Section 8 housing. They get SNAP, WIC. They get everything. Do you know that? Why?
Yeah.
Because California is a socialist state. But it's spread. It's not California anymore. It's spread. You know, I did a paper one time. I sat down and when I was in the Border Patrol and I started to go through when I was looking at my expenses and my and how much money I had at the end. And I'm a professional. And I'm like, God dang, man, it's so razor sharp, right? Every freaking month. And then I said, oh, let me go look and see what an illegal alien. And I did the math and I went over it and over and over it again. Do you know that illegal aliens had more disposable income than professional Americans do? Do you know that? Because the women get, with their children, they get Section 8 housing, they get all the benefits, and then they claim there's no man. The man's working on their table, no taxes, so they get free health care, free home, SNAP, WIC, free food, free education, and now they have all the take-home money that a man makes under the table with no taxes. And this is the kicker. In the United States of America, if your audience in Canada can even fathom this, I don't know if you guys have this. We have it's called an earned income tax credit. So if you file your taxes and they file with a TIN, a TIN, which is basically a fake Social Security number, they will get an earned income tax credit per person over $3,400 a year. So at the end of the year, when I'm paying my taxes and I get a tax bill, illegal aliens are getting the federal government sends them a actual check for $3,400 per person. They pay no tax, and they're getting a tax refund called an earned income tax credit. This is what's happening in the millions every year. People are getting earned income tax credits.
And why are they getting these tax credits? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this, because this is very similar to Canada. So let me kind of, I'll fill you in on the scam here. And this was happening around in Vancouver. So in our at least until recently, until the last 10 years or so, our immigration was largely, at least in Vancouver, was largely coming from mainland China. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was spurred by money laundering and organized crime. And so what they were doing is they were sending women and children over to work as money mules for Asian organized crime connected to the CCP. And so what a lot of those people would do, because they didn't have employment, is that they would put down on paper that they were making less than, $30,000 a year or $18,000 a year. Like, they would claim the very, very bare minimum on their income tax, so that they could receive all of the benefits. So they were receiving all of the subsidies, all the low income assistance, all of that stuff.
That's what's happened here in America.
So, but see, in this case, in this situation here in Vancouver, what was happening was they were purchasing $3 or $4 million homes, and in a lot of cases owned multiple $1 million homes. So how they were on paper as a housewife or as a student is baffling, how that can happen. So in the United States, as of with what's currently happening, is it the reverse, where they're almost incentivized not to become citizens or become contributing members of American society?
Yeah, they're getting, number one, the lie is they come here to be U.S. citizens. They don't care about our country. That is a lie. Started with George Bush, started before him, but he really propagated that propagandized. They're all here to be Americans. That's not true. They don't give two craps about America. They don't. And then when they want to retain their nationality and their language, but they want to take everything that is American, meaning all of our social benefits. Our social benefits they're broken. New York City, broken. California, $60 billion in the red. In the red. There's no water in the fire hydrants, man. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand how we've been corrupted? How many people live in Canada? What is it, 115 million?
No, 40 million.
40 million.
Yeah.
We have more illegal aliens than you have Canadians living in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you're talking about the mass deportations, so when people say to me, like you did, well, I need you to go make a differentiation between a guy sitting at Home Depot and a gang member. No, I can't do that. I can't do that, because they're all the same. And I have to go through it all the same. Everyone that's illegal has to leave our country, period. We are either a nation of law and order or we're not. I don't want to hear that you're too stringent, No. This is my life. This is my money. This is my country, and I have a say in that. I want them gone, and I will tell you, I'm not the anomaly anymore. I did on my show today that every CBS, NBC, ABC, those nut jobs, CNN, those crazy loons, they're doing polls, and in the high 50s and 60s, people want not only illegal immigration, mass deportations to happen, they also want legal immigration to be curbed. So if we're looking at the most liberal media facilities, then that number is really 70 to 80%. That's what's happening in America. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a real world example of how my perspective changed on seeing someone that's a criminal. Now look, if I see a guy got neck tattoos, face tattoos, teardrops on his eyes, on his hands, on his head, that's easy. Like, there's a beacon. Like, I see 18th Street, the number 18 with the TH tattooed on top of your head, or you got a MS-13 tattooed on your neck. Okay, that's easy. That guy's a gang member. I got to arrest him. Early in my career, I would say probably within the first year of my career, I'm working midnight shift down on the Tijuana border. It's all gang members, etc. It's about 2:00 in the morning. I'll never forget, a sensor bangs off on the ground. It's a seismic sensor. I run north about maybe a quarter mile, and I'm sitting on the trail where it splits. And that's where the illegal aliens would come up from that sensor. And I'm sitting there at 2 o'clock in the morning waiting for this guy or guys to come down the dirt trail. And it just happened to be one guy. I get on him real quick because I'm real aggressive. I hold him, grab him, and I go, okay, you're under arrest. Just stay right here. And I got my flashlight on him. He's about 5'5" tops, about 130 pounds, soaking wet, clean, everything clean, like his pants, his shirt, just a normal looking dude, right? No tats, wiry arms, no threat. And I say to him, I'll never forget this. Hey man, this is how it's going to be. I'm not going to hook you up. We're going to walk back to my truck, get you in. I'll get you back to Mexico. Understand? Got a deal? Like, meaning, don't make me punch you. Don't make me have to do crazy stuff. Can we just get along right now? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's walk back. You're not going to run away from me. He goes, yeah. So I'm walking with this guy. Walking, just me and him, walking. Okay, get in the back of the truck. Go back to the station. Put him in. Sitting there in my shock and disbelief, I see a red bar come across the computer screen. And that means criminal, prior deport criminal. And I'm looking at the guy. He's behind the computer across the table from me. And I'm like, what the hell did this guy do? Murder. And that changed my whole perspective throughout my rest of my career. Never, ever, ever again was I going to be hoodwinked into the propaganda that there's good people and bad people. They're all the same. I have to treat them all the same for my safety and my sanity. I cannot pick and choose. So when you tell me, when you say, I need you to go to Home Depot and I need you to look at that guy, when you tell me that, and I hear what you're saying of the sympathy, the empathy, he's got a family, he's trying to blah, 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 blah. I don't see that. I see WIC, SNAP, welfare, Section 8. I see drunk driving, wife beating, some kind of vehicular manslaughter, some kind of molestation. I see all of that. So when I see illegal aliens, that's what I see. And my history has proven me correct way more than when I was wrong. Way more. So to answer your question more directly, do I gamble on just letting that guy from Home Depot get in his car and drive away, knowing that I know he's drunk driving multiple times? It's cultural. I know it's happening. And if I'm not going to gamble my son and my wife's life on that, why would I gamble and allow that to happen to any other American? There's a legal way to come into America. 1.2 million people come to America legally. Tens of millions come in with visas for all types of reasons, but we bring in 1.2 million. How's that not enough? How's that not enough to bring in 1.2 million? Do you know that's more than every other nation on planet Earth combined that does it legally? America does that. And that, I believe it's too much, but that's the law. When are we going to follow the law in America?
Yeah.
And that's I go all the way back to the Founding Fathers. Our Founding Fathers knew in order to have opportunity and freedom, the only way opportunity and freedom is allowed to manifest is if you have law and order. Why do we have freedom and opportunity? Because Americans believe if I work hard, if I have fruits of my labor, like physical labor, or I have intellectual property that creates something, I'm going to receive the benefits of that. And the structure in America is going to protect me from anyone coming in to steal it from me. Therefore, I have freedom and opportunity. I'm not looking around my shoulder like survival, fight or flight. I can relax. I have people that are going to take care of me. Nobody can just kill me and take my stuff. So now I have this freedom and opportunity to go and do anything and be anything I want. But that's on the foundation of law and order. If I remove law and order and they're in the place, I have chaos, then I don't have freedom and opportunity anymore. I just have chaos because I'm fearful. And that's what's happening in America. America has become balkanized. I'll give you an example. I live south of Kansas City, Kansas, and Missouri, goes straight down the line. Kansas City, Missouri is the eighth largest killing city in America. My wife and my son went to the Kansas City Chiefs, won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, went to the parade. There was a shooting there. People died. My wife and son were there 5 minutes, not 5 hours, 5 minutes prior to that. We live in a lawless society. Why do we have lawlessness in America? Because the people at the highest level never, ever see justice. Justice is never administered to them, and there is a trickle-down effect. And it's come all the way down to the bottom, where only the poor and the uneducated are treated poorly, treated badly, because they can't get bail. They can't get proper attorneys to fight with them. They don't know the people that are judges. They don't go to dinners with the judges and their families. So they're going to get the brunt of it. America is lawless. It's lawless. And I despise it. I despise what America's become.
Okay, so what do you make of the stories of like children and toddlers who have been forced to appear in immigration court without legal representation and
It's not happening. It's not happening.
See, that's the thing is I read a couple of stories on this and I was highly skeptical. And I actually was, you texted me the other day and I said, I was just thinking about you. And I had just read a story on that. And I was literally going to text you or call you to verify this because this seemed way too out there for it to be true.
No. Okay. So let's go scenarios. Okay. So I come across the border. I'm working the border down by the beach, and I see a 7-year-old and 8-year-old and their baby. They're carrying their baby across the border, like squeeze through the fence and come. And they talking to me. They're scared, right? Please, officer, help me. Absolutely. Come here, sweetheart. Here's some water. Here's a blanket. You guys got let's get you some food. Let's get you into the station. Do I release them into America by themselves? Hey, what? No. Yeah. I'm going to turn them back over to their country of origin, or I'm going to find them somebody in America that is their relative and turn them over to them. There's no court proceedings with children going through court and being, you're deported, and we're flying them out, and they just land in Ecuador and wander the streets of Ecuador. No. If I have children that don't have any relatives or anybody here in America, well, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a hold of the consulate of the foreign country and say, listen, either you're going to fly somebody here or we're going to fly them there, but this could be very controlled, and you're going to go and you're going to you have property of them. They're under your jurisdiction. Okay, we do it safely. We've got food. Here's some stuffed animals. The whole 9 yards. That's a lie. That's a lie that we're ripping children out from schools and putting them through deportation. It's absurd. It's absurd. Now, if I have a child that's a U.S. citizen through birthright citizenship, which is false, and that's a whole nother thing to talk about. But let's just say it's a U.S. citizen. Let's say it's in 2nd grade. Young boy named Juan. Juan's in 2nd grade. I go and I find his mom and dad. They're both illegal. Well, Juan has 2 choices. Juan can stay in America if he has a relative that is illegal or a U.S. citizen and can live with them, and their parents sign the waiver that Juan can stay. If there's no one here like that, then Juan, per law, not because what I want, per law, has to go home with his mom and dad, wherever that home is. Now, when Juan is 18 and can sustain himself, then he comes back to America as an adult, and then he can do whatever the hell he wants. This is how the media lies to everybody. They don't get due process. Well, number one, yes, they do get due process. And number two, I don't have to give them due process. The idea that illegal aliens are afforded the same constitutional rights as American citizens is absurd at best. Absurd at best. Let me give you an example. If you come over to America from Canada and you're going to Niagara Falls State University, New York State University, and you start protesting, down with America, America sucks, you're deportable. You don't have the freedom of speech that I do. I can say America sucks, you can't do anything to me, but you're a legal immigrant that came here on a visa. You don't have the protection of the freedom of speech that I do. You don't. Do you have, if you commit a crime, you kill somebody and I arrest you, well, you're going to be afforded all of our rights when it comes under that. You're going to get representation. You're going to have jury of your peers. You don't have to prove your innocence. You're proven innocent until guilty, all that. But the idea that illegal aliens have the same due process rights of Americans, that's absurd. That's like saying all of the world has the protections of the American Constitution. What are you, in God's name, are you talking about? And due process. Do you know there's millions upon millions of illegal aliens that have gone through the due process and been told you're deportable, you need to leave, and they don't leave? I did this for a living. I know the law. So if I get an illegal alien crosses the border, I ask them, do you want to return to your country voluntarily right now? Or do you want to go sit in camp and see the judge? I want to go home now. Okay, you go home right now. I have a rule that's called expedited removal. If I can prove that you just crossed, or you crossed within the last 14 days and less than 100 miles from a land border, then I can expedite and remove you without you having any process. I'm the judge and jury. If you've been deported before, you get no due process. I deport you immediately. It's called a reinstatement of order of deportation. This idea that crossing the border illegally is an administrative crime that's not a crime is a lie. It's called the 8 USC code. And under the 8 USC code, 1325 is a misdemeanor, 1324 is a felony, 1326 is a felony. That's what we use for everyone that crosses the border. We have been propagandized throughout the media and the politicians to believe that illegal immigration it's harmless. It's a victimless crime. That's a lie. Who do you want to believe? Do you want to believe someone that's done it for 24 years, rose up in the ranks, wrote books about it? Or do you want to talk to and listen to AOC or Jala Paul or Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan? They're morons. They're the dumbest people in our society rule over us now. And to listen to them pontificate as if they have some kind of knowledge of what's going on. Kids in cages. They're not in cages. They're being separated. Why did we have kids in segregated cells? Why? Because the other kids, the older kids, were raping them. And the adults in there claiming that they're their parents were raping them because they weren't their parents, raping them in DHS custody. So what do? We're going to protect the child and separate them. It's a lie. It's like AOC. Remember that scene where she's wearing white pants and a white shirt and she's looking through the chain link fence and she's crying? Do you remember that? I don't know if you remember that when she did that.
Do.
That was under Obama. Do you know that was staged? Do you know what she was looking at? She was looking at an empty parking lot with a Border Patrol agent standing there, and she acted as if she was looking through a cage to children. It's all propaganda and a lie.
Yeah.
All of it.
So, and I think you meant to say that was under Biden, right? It was under Biden
it was under Obama.
It was. Okay.
It was under Obama. No, excuse me. It was under Trump when she was crying. She was crying.
Right.
It was Obama. Obama era started the quote cages. Okay. They weren't cages. They're holding facilities. And she came under Trump and staged that. Look what they're doing to the kids. They're killing the kids. They're hurting the kids. They're drinking out of toilets. This dumb twat didn't understand that in jails, you don't have a sink and a toilet and a sink are combined. You have the sink has a different water line, comes to a sink area because we have limited space, and there's a toilet that you use that has a different line to it. And she goes, they're making them drink out of toilets. She's the dumbest bitch in the world, and she has direct impact on my life as a congresswoman. She's a moron.
Wow. Okay, so last question before we roll out of here, because I know you got that suit pressed and you're ready to be on TV.
I have to. I have to. I got to clean myself up for the upper echelon of media.
You motherfucker. So, in conclusion, is it in order to tackle this issue? Is it absolutely necessary then to just cast a wide net and grab them all, or as many as you can, and sort them out once they're in custody?
Yeah, you get everyone that you can, and then they'll self-deport. And people they used to laugh at the self-deportation. And I've said for years, and I've been proven correct, I don't have to arrest 50 million people. I just have to be consistent day in and day out and arrest and make it impossible for them to live. And I'll give you a great example. Los Angeles, California. If you've ever been to LA, it is a third world hellhole. There's no one on the streets anymore. The highways are wide open. You can drive because all the illegal aliens, either they've already left or they're hiding and they won't come out, literally hiding and won't come out. So we have built an entire city, the entire infrastructure, all the money, all the fire, all the police officers, everything has built for illegal aliens. Mm. And when we remove those illegal aliens from our society, wow, the streets are clean. There's no violence. There's no killings. People are getting along. It's pretty unique and pretty exciting to see it actually happen the way it's supposed to. And the lies and the propaganda and all that. Now, listen, if you're a good, upstanding person and you've been working, why can't you leave and put in the system to come back?
Yeah.
I don't think listen, Mexico for the last 2 years has been deporting American citizens. They've been going through because Americans have been overstaying their visas and they're rounding them up and deporting them. Why is it okay for someone that is illegal in Mexico to be deported back to America and we can't deport their people? It's absurd. I want to follow the laws of Mexico. They no matter, like Iran. Iran obviously is a maniac place with the theocracy. However, if I go to Iran, I have to follow Iranian law. Or I just don't go. Why is my law, why is the United States of America law allowed to be ignored and just act as if it's okay because of diversity, because of whatever the hell you want it to be, because AOC cries about it? No, we either are a law and order nation or we're not. And right now we are not. We're not a nation of law and order.
Yeah. And so in order to deal with this, once again, everybody listening, I am sorry I had to open the window again and I got all these trucks rolling by my windows. I got to figure out the air conditioning situation inside this house. But apologies to everybody who can hear that in the background. Yeah, it's a very complicated subject, right? Because, I was reading that story the other day and there was they were telling the story of, I think he was a 4-year-old boy who was forced to represent himself in immigration court. He was being deported.
Oh, come on,
being
man.
deported back to Mexico or wherever.
Sure.
And he didn't have representation. And they
sure.
were kind of painting it out like this is what's happening with Trump's mass deportation.
Okay, let's just look at that. Look at that from a physical, right? You have a 4-year-old that I'm going to have to stand him on a chair so everybody can see him. Now, I know you don't speak English. I know you're crying and scared. Okay, represent yourself. Tell us why you should stay here. You see how absurd? I mean, who would believe that? Maybe a Canadian would believe that.
Yeah. Motherfucker. Well, no, because I was like, this is really over the fucking top. Like, this is, and so I was skeptical and I was thinking about you because I was like, shit, I should really call JJ and ask him about this. Because, once again, we are in this world of narratives. Mm-hmm. There is no truth or reality anymore. Everything is something that is spun up to either support or attack political ideology, whatever cult, the other side you're fighting against. But, I guess in summary, your view is that we have to cast a wide net. We have to see, this has always been the question in my mind. How is it that you can exist in a country for 30 plus years and never make an attempt to become a citizen?
Because you don't care. Because you don't care. You don't care. You don't care about America. Why do people rent houses and destroy them? Because it's not their house.
Right. So, I just feel like by the time you have children and they're all going into schools, right? And you've been living in a place for a decade or so. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much like a fucking given that like this is home now. Like this is where you're going to be. So the question I always ask myself is, well, once you realize that like this is home, this is where I'm going to be, why not go through the process to become a citizen and save yourself from the grief of potentially being deported in the future should a Donald Trump figure be elected into office?
Because they don't care. I know it's hard for you to understand. They don't care, and they have such strong allegiance to their wherever that country is. That's who they are. They just don't care, man. Why do you see foreign flags being waved in America? Would I go down to Tijuana and wave American flag? Would I go to Iran? Would I go to China? Would I go to Russia and speak English and wave the American flag and then take your flag and burn it and then denounce you and all the people around me as racist? Would I do that? The answer is no. So why do we allow that to happen? Because we've allowed people to come in our country that hate us and despise us and want to take, and because we have become impotent, beta, soft males, why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they take?
I also think it has to do with the cultural view of, hey, we have it better than everybody else. Therefore we have to show tolerance and compassion to the people who are coming here because we have it better. We are the place that everybody wants to be. But unfortunately, simply being the place that everybody wants to be doesn't mean that everybody should be allowed to be there, nor is it a place that has the capacity to hold that many people. Well, and we're seeing that, right? I mean, we're seeing that in Canada. I mean, we added 5 million people to our population, 5 million new immigrants, and this place is it was falling apart before. Now this place is just crumbling. It's not even, I don't even know how to explain it. Like it's not even an operational, functional country anymore.
And we have the same thing. We have infrastructure crumbling. Okay, let me end with this. And I know we're pushing up on the hour, but I want to end with this. And I talk to my liberal friends. I don't have liberal friends, so I talk to liberal people, and they ask me this question. Okay. That's it. I'd be honest. I'm just being honest.
I'm as close as you get to a liberal friend.
You're it. That's it. And they ask me the same thing. Well, everybody, they want to come to America for a better life. I go, okay, number one, I don't believe that. However, let's play your game. There's 8 billion people on planet Earth. 4 billion live in poverty that we can't even imagine. 2 billion live in squalor that we can't even wrap our brain around. So let's use that 2 billion. And they all want to come because they're making their way here under Joe Biden. How many of those 2 billion do we take? And they look at me stunned. And I go, do we take all of them? Well, of course not. Okay, well, do we take 350 million, the equal of our population? No, we can't do that. So what's the number? And they always come to this 20 million number. So, okay, I snap my fingers. There are 20 million illegals now are legal residents in America. Can you tell me what you're going to do about the other 1.98 billion that are trying to come here? And there's silence. And I say, you build a wall. You have law and order and you have police officers and Border Patrol agents and everything's contained, right? Yes. They're like, yeah. And I go, then why is your wall okay for 1.98 billion, but my wall for 2 billion is racist? And there's always silence. And I say, because you're insane. You have no logic behind your argument. We have to be a nation of law and order, or we can just become a piece of land that everyone just walks over and abuses. That's your choice. You only have two choices. That's it. I choose for America to be America with our demographics that we have in America. I didn't vote for Lindsey Graham, Joe Biden, McConnell, all the traitors Democrats to do this to America in these last 4 years. I did not vote for that. No one did. You did it on your own through fiat. America is the most vulnerable it's ever been, and you Canadians need to pay attention because a very significant percentage of those criminal illegal aliens came from your country, came through your bullshit immigration visa process, came into Canada to make its way into America. You were not our friend. You and Mexico were the same. You abused us. You took advantage of the weak, impotent, moronic brain mush of a president that we had, and you allowed all those people to circumvent through your country into ours. That's why Trump has been so aggressive to your basically asexual Trudeau, right? That's what he did. That's why. And that's why I'm angry. You're supposed to be my friend. Mexico, you're supposed to be our neighbor, but you abused us. And I want America to start acting as if they are the biggest, baddest mother effer on planet Earth, because we are, and we need to make everyone bend a knee to us. And if you don't like it, then we're going to force you to your knees. And America does not start acting like that, then we will fall into the dustbin of history. I believe that. And I want America to become the very strong alpha male that it used to be, instead of this transgender, sexual perverse freak that we've turned into. I want the masculine man to dominate again in America, because the world needs us. Because if we don't, then the world will collapse. And America has to be strong. And damn it, it's about time we get back to it. Will it happen in my lifetime? I don't know. Are there enough of me, type of men like me? I don't know. I really don't. But I'm not going to bend a knee. If I ever get called up for Trump, I will never bend a knee like Dan Bongino. And if I do, you call me on your show and you browbeat me down. You understand? Because I will never, ever be part of the problem. I will always be the solution. Like I tell my son, and I'll leave you with this. Son, don't you ever, ever, ever bend a knee and be a coward, because you will be a prisoner in your mind forever. Because there's nothing that kills a man more than him knowing in the depths of his soul he's a coward. Die standing up and fighting. Yeah. And that's what I plan to do. So always good talk to you, man. I gotta get my shirt on right now, my jacket on.
Son of a bitch, you motherfucker.
Brave new normal. This is a brave new normal right now. And we gotta fight through it.
Yeah, this is apparently we wear t-shirts and very little hair gel in the brave new normal, you motherfucker.
Hey, I just got to work out so I can kill as many liberals as I can. That's my
Well, my brother, it's always beautiful talking to you, man. Before you get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can best place is jjcarrell.com. Great website's got everything on there. All my socials, all my connections to my podcast, jjcarrell.com. Dude, yes. Thanks so much, man.
Yes, go pick up JJ's latest book. Go check out his podcast. JJ is one of the hardest working motherfuckers out there, and love him or hate him, man. This guy he's the real American hero. Look at that face. Look at that beautiful fucking face.
Get out of here. I'll see you later.
Go get your shirt on, you filthy fuck.